The major lines are the lifeline, the headline, and the heartline. We look at them in both hands, your left hand and your right hand. The hand that is most dominant, the one that you reach out with, the one that you greet, the one that you will pick up a teapot with, that's considered your dominant hand. That's the one that you're constantly taking action on, and that's the one that's most representative of you and what you're doing in this life. The other hand, the non-dominant hand, is the one that shows all the areas that you're thinking about, the genetics, your family history, the things that you're prone to, because you're not reaching out as much. Someone that is psychic but not acting on it will have a lot of the signs in their family hand or the non-dominant hand. And I believe everyone's psychic. I want to start with that. But it's really those that were meant to be in a position to share with people what they're feeling, because they don't necessarily know what's other people around them don't necessarily know how to express what they're feeling with the same degree. That's what a psychic does. They pick up the energy and they're able to give words. They're able to help make visible what's invisible. And so the non-dominant hand will show your chronic thinking patterns, what you're feeling, whereas the ones that your dominant hand will really share what's happening in your life day to day. The 72-hour thing shows up when it's a really big deal, like it's a karmic, something that you agreed upon. The Vedas talk about there's 9 different times that we've decided we're going to check out of life, like kind of like the 9 lives of a cat. There are indicators of that showing up in your palms. And when you go into a deep Vedic reading where you're looking at the worlds, and you can go back to the exact date that you were born. You can look back and get the exact date, your astrology sign, all of it stamped on your hand, on the prints in the worlds. And so when you first come out, you have a lot more lines. And if you ever get the chance to see a baby's hands, you'll notice all of these cute, amazing lines. And as we get older, our non-dominant hand will change less than our dominant hand, the hand that we're reaching out with. And you can compare how well you're doing. I'm putting quotes, sort of the challenges that came up and how you're able to navigate some of those challenges. We'll talk about some of those as well. The first line you want to look at in a hand is the lifeline. And what you want to look at, and it's the line that runs between your thumb and your forefinger. And it starts, Jack, if you'll come on up. Ooh, I can demonstrate there as well. But you can kind of see it's going to run down your palms. So there are generally, that's a very significant line. I've only seen a few people without a line there. And that was a palm reader on 3rd Street Promenade, and she was really, really interesting. She self-identified as a gypsy, and she said she knew I was a palm reader, and she said, how would you read that? How would you read this? And literally there were no lines, nothing right here. And her driving force, her lifeline, everything changes moment to moment to moment to moment, meaning there's nothing pre. And she said this clearly. She said, I have no memory of anything from her previous, like the day before. The skill, what she was doing there, she knew her family, she knew her, but she would read because she was able to read their energy. She had no life of her own to compare it to. But that's your lifeline. And we'll get into the specifics. Your headline runs from your index finger out to your pinky finger. And your heart line runs from your pinky towards your index finger. Did that make sense for everyone? Awesome. This is the funnest part when we start getting into individual lines and reading each other's lines. If your headline is straight, you're really straight in your thinking. If it's really, really long and branched, it means you have a lot of ideas, and those ideas you don't necessarily take a whole lot of action on. So if it's really long and all over the place, so let me start this one again. If you've got a short headline, you prefer to do things physically. Like a short one, you will prefer to be there in person. You want to talk face to face. And again, we're doing, generally speaking, you're quick to act in the physical world. This is the active part of your hand. It doesn't cross over into the passive. A headline that continues and goes into the passive and is kind of all over the place means the way that you're thinking, the way that you're processing things, the mental parts, there's a lot of mental activity happening without necessarily a lot of action. This can also be representative of your profession. So, headlines that move down into the palm, those are creative people. Those that create and are, they're not analytical. They're not analyzing. There's not a lot of, again, the energy is like they're taking action steps. They're creating, because that's how energy comes out of your hands. Light comes out of your hands based on coming from your heart out through your hands. If it's moving up towards your fingers, if it's going up like that, you're very analytical. You'd make a great lawyer. You're going to analyze, be into details, different specific things. Moving up, sometimes there's breaks in this line. And if there's breaks, it's really representative of multiple ways of thinking, meaning you had one way that you thought, you had a distinct change. A lot of times it's like you go to India or you go to a foreign country and it really changes your thinking, or even within your town, you break out of the shell that you were in. So, professionally, writers have a very small fork right there. They have part of the line moving down, part of the line moving up. So they're editor writers that they make like a fork. And this, again, it'll be in your dominant and your non-dominant hand. In your non-dominant hand, it's representative of a natural skill set that your family has ability to write. In your own, in your hand, if you're writing a lot of notes, taking a lot of notes, you're not creating them. You might not necessarily have the fork. But if you're writing your own creative material, your headline will fork. This part is specifically on how to interpret the heart line, and there's several places in your palm that your heart shows up. So this part with the heart is so important, and I'm so excited because this is one of the areas that continues to grow and grow and grow. And I love watching my children's hands with this. The lower set it is in your palm, so looking at your mercury finger, your pinky finger, the first thing you look for in your love line is it high or is it low? If it's high, close to your mercury finger where it starts, it's really representative of your ability to love like a prince or a princess. You expect to be loved like a prince or a princess. It's the higher up it is. The lower it is, the more practical you are in your loving ability. And it's amazing because mine is really, relatively speaking, lower. And I have two because I've grown more ideal in the way that I love and am loved than the way that I started out. And so those are lines that really, really show up. Where your love line ends is really, really significant as well. So when babies come out and you look at their palms, this is a diagnostic criteria that's in medical books. If they have a short line right here, or if they only have one crease, not a heart and a head crease, meaning they're not two lines, it's considered a simian crease. If there's only one line representative of the head and the heart, that means that they don't have, there's a couple different things. There's like about 4 different things that it can mean. One, they're mentally challenged. Their brain did not develop separately. And it's one of the criteria for diagnosing, for checking out chromosomes, to look at chromosomes. That's one of the ones. Some of the people that have simian creases are the leaders of our society as well, which is really interesting because they don't separate their heart and their mental abilities. And so a lot of the leaders have one crease. And it's called a simian crease. It can also be representative of your ability to filter out information, not be distracted. So it means like actors and actresses sometimes have that one crease because they're really able to embody all the emotions and all the everything connected. They're able to channel it. And the last thing, autism and developmentally. So I've worked with so many people that wound up bringing their babies because they were shown their heart line did not make it past the Saturn finger. And that's emotional intelligence. The length of your heart line is representative of your emotional ability to translate, feel what other people are feeling. You're able to interpret the information. Again, this is a passive hand. This is the passive part. This is the active part. If it runs up to here, you are actively loving. You're using your energy, you're using yourself to be able to love others. Your heart expands and is able to connect with and feel what other people are feeling. If it's short, if it stops right here in the middle of Saturn finger, you love by the rules. You love based on like, oh, he's supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that. There's a lot of rules involved in your ability to love. It's not an internal as much as an external measurement of measuring the way that you show up for each other based on other things. Many, many, many people, and this is something that's being documented, are now able to have, and the Dalai Lama and love lines that are wrapping and forking all the way across. So they're not necessarily going up completely like this. There's multiple forks. They're able to love in many different ways. Unconditional love, able to represent, feel what other people are feeling, create with their love. It's representative of the heart waves as well.